Kobudō. Kobudō hails from Okinawa, Japan, where it's thought farmers turned their tools into weapons due to samurai-imposed arms bans. This martial art features an arsenal including the bow staff, sai, and tonfa, cleverly repurposing everyday items for self-defense. Kendo. Kendo, originating from Japan, evolved from the ancient swordsmanship practice known as Kenjutsu. It's often called the way of the sword, and utilizes bamboo swords called shinai and protective armor called bogu. Kendo combines physical discipline with character development, emphasizing respect and a strong spirit. Silambam. Silambam, dating back to the 4th century BCE, originates from Madurai in Tamil Nadu, India. This martial art utilizes a sturdy bamboo staff, aptly named after the Tamil word for hill, reflecting its robust nature. Initially developed to defend against wild animals, Silambam has evolved into a comprehensive fighting system, incorporating weapons like swords, daggers, and even deer antlers. Arnis. Arnis, also known as Kali or Eskrima, is the national martial art of the Philippines, originating from indigenous tribal warfare. It features weapons like rattan sticks and daggers, cleverly preserved through cultural dances during Spanish prohibitions. Today, Arnis is showcased in both performance and competitive forms. Canne combat. Canne combat, a French martial art developed in the 19th century, uses walking canes for self-defense. It evolved into a sport where competitors score points with stylish, precise strikes using lightweight canes in a ring, focusing on form and agility. Bōjutsu. Bōjutsu, or the art of the staff, is a Japanese martial art focusing on the bow staff, usually 6 feet long. Originating in 1600s Okinawa as a covert form of self-defense, it involves precise striking and thrusting techniques, taught in a few traditional schools without official competitions. Fencing. Fencing originated in 13th century Germany and became a sport in 1763 London under Italian instructor Domenico Angelo. It features 3 sword types: foil, épée, and saber, each with specific rules. A staple at the Olympics since 1896, fencing combines strategy with physical agility. Jōjutsu. Jōjutsu, known as art of the stick, originated in 16th century Japan by Muso Gonosuke to counter sword attacks. This martial art uses a 4-foot oak stick, focusing on speed and precision with techniques like strikes and thrusts. Jōjutsu is practiced today mainly for self-defense and discipline. Hanbōjutsu. Hanbōjutsu, meaning half-staff, is a Japanese martial art dating back to the 14th century. It involves a 3-foot staff used for blocking, striking, and joint locks, modeled after a battlefield necessity. This art is primarily taught in a few Japanese schools for self-defense, not sport. Gatka. Gatka, a martial art from northern India, combines physical, mental, and spiritual techniques. Originating as a Sikh battle skill against the Mughals, it uses swords and various weapons in fluid movements. Today, it's showcased in sports and cultural festivals, recognized globally. Gungsul. Gungsul is a traditional Korean martial art that centers on archery, believed to have started about 300 years ago during the Joseon dynasty. It gained prominence when Prince Henry of Prussia admired the skill in 1899, leading to its recognition as a national sport by Emperor Gojong. Gungsul uses a composite bow made from materials like bamboo and water buffalo horn. Rākau. Rākau is a traditional New Zealand martial art by the Maori, focusing on the taiaha, a staff weapon. Developed in the 14th century, it involves angular strikes and thrusts. After declining in the 19th century, Rākau saw a revival in the 1980s and continues to be practiced, mainly on Mokoya Island. Iaidō and Iaijutsu. Iaidō and Iaijutsu are traditional Japanese martial arts focusing on the art of drawing and striking with a katana. Originating among samurai to counter surprise attacks, Iaidō teaches self-directed sword unsheathing, while Iaijutsu involves formal instruction on drawing techniques. Practiced by enthusiasts, competitions involve performing kata, where swordsmen start by kneeling, unsheathing their swords, and executing precise strikes without moving their feet, judged by the sound of the air cutting. Krabi krabong. Krabi krabong is a traditional Thai martial art from the 16th century, using weapons like swords and staffs. It gained sport popularity during the Ratanakosin era, but later declined in favor of Muay Thai. Today, it's preserved as a niche sport in Thailand, practiced in both competitive and ceremonial forms. Kyūdō. Kyūdō, or Way of the Bow, is a Japanese archery style that dates back to the samurai in feudal Japan, using a long asymmetrical bow called a yumi. It evolved from ancient techniques, maintaining relevance even after the introduction of firearms. Today, Kyūdō is practiced primarily in Japan, with ceremonial and competitive aspects, and has followers in various parts of the world. Naginatajutsu. Naginatajutsu, or art of wielding a naginata, is a Japanese martial art that uses a pole with a curved blade, historically wielded by female warriors. Today, it's mainly practiced as a sport by women in Japan, with competitions focusing on precision strikes using safe replicas, overseen by the International Federation of Naginata. Nunchaku-do. Nunchaku-do, involving the use of nunchucks, has debated origins, with theories ranging from Okinawan farming tools to modified night watchmen's clappers. Today, nunchucks are introductory weapons in martial arts like Kobudō and karate, valued for teaching self-restraint and improving grip strength and hand speed. They are commonly featured in performance art competitions across Asia, Europe, and North America. Siljun Dobup. Siljun Dobup, created in the late 1970s by Korean Kendo Grandmaster Jin K-seong, is a martial art focused on katana mastery, emphasizing control, strength, and precise technique. Starting from a standing position, it involves advanced footwork and does not include sparring or competitions. Practitioners progress from wooden to sharpened steel swords, refining their skills over time. Singlestick. Singlestick, originating in 16th century UK, was initially a training tool for soldiers to master backsword skills using wooden sticks. It evolved into a sport with specific targets on the upper body and head. Although it declined with the introduction of Italian fencing, it was revived by the British Royal Navy in the 1980s and remains a niche practice today. Shintaido. Shintaido sprang up in Yokohama, Japan in 1965, crafted by karate master Hiroyuki Aoki. This martial art blends the bow staff with traditional karate and kenjutsu techniques, turning combat into an expressive art form. Historical European martial arts. Historical European martial arts, or HEMA, encompasses sword-based martial arts from Europe, dating from the 1300s to the 1800s, reconstructed from ancient artworks and fencing manuals. It includes training with various classical weapons like daggers, pole weapons, and bucklers, focusing on authentic historical combat techniques rather than the sport-oriented approach of modern fencing. Itto-Ryu. Itto-Ryu, a Japanese swordsmanship school founded in the 17th century by Ito Idosai Kagehisa, focuses on mastering decisive single-strike techniques with the katana. This style has significantly influenced modern Kendo and emphasizes simplicity and effectiveness in its approach to combat. Haidong Gumdo. Haidong Gumdo is a Korean martial art centered on sword techniques, focusing on forms and patterns rather than sparring. Practitioners use wooden or real swords for solo exercises and target cutting, emphasizing the cultivation of body and mind without the competitive aspect found in similar arts like Kendo. Sōjutsu. Sōjutsu, or Yari-jutsu, is a Japanese martial art focused on spear fighting using the yari, a spear with a long wooden shaft and metal blade. It includes techniques for both mounted and foot combat, effective against long-reach weapons and mounted opponents. The art, which emphasizes targeting armor weak spots, was traditionally taught to low-ranking samurai and foot soldiers. Sōjutsu is still practiced in some traditional Japanese martial arts schools. Tahtib. Tahtib, originating from Egypt around 2700 BCE, is one of the oldest recorded martial arts, initially used for military training with a 4-foot stick. It evolved into a folk dance and later into a structured competitive sport under Adel Boulad. Today, Tahtib combines ceremonial elements with competitions that involve precision stick strikes and is practiced worldwide. Tessenjutsu. Tessenjutsu, translating to Art of the Iron Fan, is a Japanese martial art that uses a folding iron fan called a tessen. Developed nearly 900 years ago, it enabled samurai to parry attacks and strike back with one hand, utilizing the fan's iron ribs for both defense and offense. Historically, samurai carried these fans as legal weapons into places where swords were prohibited, mastering their use to defend against various armed attacks. Today, Tessenjutsu is preserved by a small number of practitioners in Japan. Zulu stick fighting. Zulu stick fighting, or Dlala Nduku, is a martial art from South Africa traditionally practiced by Zulu teenage boys. It features during wedding ceremonies, where warriors from both families compete using two sticks, one for offense and one for defense to establish dominance. Overseen by a referee, the sport has roots in either cattle herding traditions or military training from the early 19th century under Shaka Zulu. Ninjitsu. Ninjitsu, a Japanese martial art focused on espionage and stealth, originated during the Genpei Civil War. Practitioners, known as shinobi, were trained in various combat techniques and survival skills for espionage and assassination missions. Although rich in history, ninjitsu has ceased to be practiced, with the last known heir declaring it obsolete for modern society. Aikido. Aikido, developed in Japan by Morihei Ueshiba during the 1920s, emphasizes non-violence and harmony in redirecting an attacker's force. This martial art integrates throws, joint locks, and strikes, with some techniques involving weapons like the jo, staff, bakken, and tanto. Introduced internationally in the 1950s, Aikido has evolved into various forms practiced worldwide, focusing on peace and reconciliation without competitive elements. If you enjoyed this video, then check out our video on unusual sporting events. Don't forget to subscribe for more.